Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is a comedy juggler. He's juggling already. It's Charles Peacock, and we're going to talk with him about what it's like to play for a living. He's also an inventor, but he's been on The Tonight Show. He's been on America's Got Talent and has all kinds of fun. You can find him at charlespeacock.com. If you're looking for Playful Humans, you can find us at playfulhumans.com, where we help the burned out and bored have a little more fun, flow, and fulfillment in their life, and encourage all humans to go out there and play. Join the club, playfulhumans.com. Here we go. Now I'm going to juggle.
See it. My job is in trouble.
All right. Welcome to the show, Charles. I really appreciate it. Thanks for juggling for us too. Yeah. I feel like that's free. We're asking a professional to, like.
That's okay. I enjoy it. I play.
Asking a chef to cook you dinner, but I appreciate you playing for sure. And we like to start with the joke of the week. So the joke of the week is brought to you by Wikipedia. Wikipedia never gets arrested, never gets in trouble because they can explain everything. Wikipedia. All right, you got a joke for us?
Yeah. What sits at the bottom of the ocean and twitches?
Sits at the bottom of the ocean and twitches. I have no idea.
A nervous wreck.
I
like them short and sweet.
I like that. I've already dropped one of my juggling balls, so I'm going to have to figure out how to creatively get down there and pick that up. I'm sure you have solutions for that. But
yeah, it's called the editing room.
There you go. I have an ocean joke too, though. Do you know how to make an octopus laugh?
I don't know.
Tentacles.
That's it.
Nice. All right.
I won't do it.
No, I know you would think it would be 8 tickles, but it's not. It's tentacles. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. We mentioned you have done a lot in juggling, had some really cool appearances and stuff. You're a professional, you've done it on cruise ships. It's really what you do for a living. But how did you get started in that? And did you ever have a day job and this was like a side hustle, or was it always something that you wanted to do and got into?
I was really lucky. What I always tell people, one of the biggest blessings I ever had was knowing for sure what I wanted to do at an early age, and just that was it. I knew it. I was going to sleep in my car and be homeless if I had to, or sleep on the street and do what I wanted to do. But I was for sure I was going to be a professional juggler when I fell in love with it around the age 11, when I learned how to do it, and I joined a local juggling club, and that was it. I meant business, and it was a pleasure, but it was something I could really focus, pour myself into, and really just have fun. And that's all I wanted to do. And that's all I ever have done.
Wow, that's amazing. So what was it like early? Did you just start with local shows and gigs and talent competitions and stuff?
Luckily, I had a local juggling club, and it was good because you kind of fostered a sense of purpose and belonging. When you're young, 12 to 14 years is about the hardest age for a guy to go through. Those are tough years. So if you have something to hold on to and something that makes you feel like you have value and you enjoy doing, well, that's a big leg up. Keeps you away from the drugs and all the distractions. So I luckily had something really positive in my life, and that's all I did. I poured myself into it, and I was really lucky to have that.
Yeah, you got to find your tribe for sure, whatever it is. But I think especially with play, it helps to find people that like to play the way you do, and whether that's juggling or art or whatever it is for you, board games. Finding people that like the same thing is really a cool part about just being a human, but a cool part about finding your passion and things that you enjoy, so you can enjoy the ride, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I guess the flip side of that is also true, though. I imagine that you've done it so much now that there are times when it feels like a job. Have you ever, do you still pinch yourself, or are there times where you're like, oh man, I really don't want to practice, or I really don't want to do this?
No, it's not. it's not so much when it comes showtime. It's the,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to wake up at 3:30 a.m. and lug my gear to an airport and take 4 planes and load in. And that's usually that's what they pay you for. That's what we say in show business.
Right.
It's like they pay you to get to the gig. The show is free. So that's the enjoyable part. The non-enjoyable part is all the work and everything leading up to it.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I'm sure most of the time it's still fun. And I'm gonna have to ask you like the standard juggling question too at some
Yeah,
point,
sure.
but before we get there, but what have you ever just like bombed and just had the drops or anything, and how do you deal with that? I feel like out of all the performances, juggling is one that everybody knows when you mess up. If you're a singer, you can miss a note and most people don't ever know, right?
I'm
But
so glad you brought up that point. It's so funny.
yeah.
Imagine being a guitarist and like missing one string, then all of a sudden your guitar strap falls off and hits the ground. That's basically, it's like that obvious, like an ice skater
Right.
falls. Like, and here's the other thing that's even worse than that. It's such a delicate thing. It's so inconsistent. Yeah, I actually have to. And when I was young, I did drop a lot more in performances. It was because I wasn't as disciplined to stay within my range that was going to be like airtight and 100%. So, I have a range like this. My audience sees my range about here where it's completely safe. And I can do it not only all the time, but under any conditions, lighting conditions. There are times, one gig I showed up, I've never even saw the stage or lights. And basically we're getting the show ready backstage because everything was running behind. And I open and I see the theater for the first time and I have to perform 45 minutes perfectly. Well, it's because I work within that first and second gear, even though I have third, fourth, fifth, and sixth gear. So when I was young, I wasn't as disciplined. I wanted to be like, hey, check out my newest trick. Like I want everybody to see this one I've been working on. Now I'm more disciplined. I realize it's not about me and showing them what I can do. It's about making them forget about their bills and their problems with their kids and all the worries of life. I'm there to help facilitate that. And once I grew into that as a performer, that's when things really started to accelerate.
Well, that's huge. You make a great point there. And I wonder if that applies to other professions and people too. I think certainly most singers have a higher range than they sing in for most songs. But when do you get to show off then? Do you ever get to practice those huge things on a stage or say, okay, now I'm going to do the one that I might drop or set those things up or not?
And the thing is that there's a blessing and a curse that goes along with higher and higher profile gigs. When you're a headliner on the most expensive ship and the most expensive stage Disney has ever built, it's typically, I'm contracted over the Disney Fantasy a lot. Now's not the time to experiment or to, it's just like, I always take a look at it too. I'm always, one of the moments I do pinch myself still all the time is before the show, when the theater fills up, and there's like 1,500 people there and they're going to be there for an hour. I walk, back to the side and I can see everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, all these people are here to give me an hour of their life. Now's not the time to make it about me and pull off this big trick or do something for me. So no, I really take it. All that has a backseat. There are some situations, juggling conventions, where jugglers have a lot more forgiveness, and because they understand that not everything's perfect and you're gonna miss. And a lot of them are amateurs or semi-pros there anyway. So a lot of them drop regularly on stage often. So it's not a big thing. It's not a freak occurrence. And then there's also this other thing that goes along with it too, that people say, if you don't drop in the performance, it looks too easy. So I guess I just can't win. Anyway.
Well, I was gonna say that because I've seen some jugglers intentionally drop stuff and then make it, struggling on purpose or to get people to do and then they're like, just kidding. And it was part of the setup and you could tell that it was planned. But that's interesting to me. I mean, so I'm sure you get to play by yourself and practice stuff, but you've done a lot of crazy things. I'm wondering what is kind of the most interesting or most fun for you. So you play the piano with your juggling balls. You were on the Tonight Show for doing that. You've also done in other places, America's Got Talent and stuff. There you set yourself on fire and doing other things. Sometimes stuff that looks like impressive is actually easy and not very much fun, or it's painful, and other things that look maybe are super hard and they look easier. So how does that
Right.
balance for you? Is there one that stands out?
There's a couple simple juggling tricks actually that audiences just always like ooh and ah for, but to me, it's a very basic trick. And there are some that are really hard for me, and the audience just doesn't care. And there are those few rare tricks that are like really difficult, and the audience likes them. So I enjoy doing those things. Um, so I try and find a balance, but it's always about them. If I can do a trick that makes them go, oh, then I will do that. So that's what I try and focus on. And the routines that I've cultivated, and also the routines that have narrowed down and gotten more stage time, are the ones that have the biggest impact on the audience and really wow them. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Now with the piano, I guess you did play music. I found that out ahead of time. So you play music
Yes.
for fun. So the piano juggling routine was probably just a natural combination of some of your passions,
Oh,
right?
I play a little bit of guitar and I play a lot of drums. Now, piano is actually a percussion instrument, but I can't just sit down at a piano and play. And so I needed to learn like the note positions and everything like that. And it's almost like when you're juggling with the tennis balls, it's almost like you're playing with two fingers. So instead of 10, you're just playing with two, basically.
Right.
So if you put me in front of a piano, I could play with two fingers. That's about it.
Well, that's funny. And how did you get that started? Did you just see Big on a rerun and be like, you know what, I can do something there? Or what?
Everybody ties those two together.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that comes to mind. I started actually playing bouncing with drums and even juggling
Okay.
clubs and drumsticks and hitting them. And then I started moving into like more melodic drums, like different tones. And I was like, well, if you're trying to play different tones, why not just play it with a xylophone or a keyboard? So that was the natural progression. You kind of get an idea, and then it slowly morphs into something else and keeps growing, or it's a bad idea and it just tanks and you goes in the trash can.
So tell me about the drums and music. Was that always just a side hobby for you? Did you ever try to make that your career?
That was definitely a passion of mine. It's something I saw and wanted to be. It was a skill I was just drawn to. And you know what's so funny is so many jugglers are actually have a side passion of playing drums and magic. So like
Oh
if
yeah,
you're a
a lot of them.
juggler, you're likely to be one of those two arms. One or two or both of them that you're likely to be part of. I don't know what it is, but it's just the way what attracts our brains, I think.
That's funny. I learned to juggle in high school at a basketball camp, and then I had a friend who was really into the vaudeville type acts. So I tried to learn pins for a summer with him and never quite made it. And then we tried the unicycle too. So I feel
Yes.
like a lot of those kind of circus performance things go together there too,
Yes.
where basically you just want to be the center of attention.
It's really all is. Look at me.
Yeah, that's
And maybe
funny.
that's what it's like being the youngest in the family. And maybe that's what it was too. It was just I had a need for attention. And that was a good way to get it. So, but at the same time, I'm an introvert, so that surprises a lot of people, especially after they see my show. So it takes a lot of energy out of me, but I really, really do enjoy it. So it's kind of a polar opposite, but that's just part
Well,
of the way my brain works, I guess.
yeah, lots of our guests have said that. And I think that's true about me too. I don't think I'm pretty outgoing anyway, but I do think it's being on stage is an introverted way to get attention, actually, because if you like the crowd, you would be out in the crowd in the party. So it's your way
Right.
to be a part of the party without having to be in it and stuff that I find really interesting. A lot of radio personalities are that way too. They're in a room by themselves. So it's their way of being funny and expressing themselves without having to talk to people. It's kind of funny.
That makes and then also in the real world, if you're a true introvert, you're not the life of the party. Everybody else, the people with bigger personalities are kind of dominating the conversations and the social interactions. And so you want to have your moment. There it is up on stage.
So how did you get the comedy part of it? Was that naturally something that's funny for you, or
Uh-uh.
just
No.
adapted to make the show more
In
entertaining?
fact, I didn't want to do anything talking. I wanted to be a technical juggler, almost like a gymnast or ice skater or something like that. I wanted to do my stuff. It'd be choreographed, maybe a little bit of theatrical, but I didn't want to speak to the audience. That wasn't my thing. I wanted to do my thing and show them my art. What ended up happening is it's a different layer that you introduce when you start doing comedy. So basically, you're engaging wow, this is amazing part of the brain, and then if you can also engage the likability and the connection between you and the audience and the laughter, it just adds all these layers on it, and it becomes so much more of a powerful experience. And also, if you want to do a 40-minute show, you can't really just juggle and not talk to the audience and interact with them, or not many audiences are going to be as receptive to that. So the way my show is, it's stacked. So I'll do something technical and difficult, and then I'll do a big comedy routine, or get somebody up on stage, or I'll do something artistic that basically is more an emotional piece. So I try and shift gears to keep the audience engaged and keep them switching modes. And that's, I think, gives them a much more immersive experience and bigger experience and better experience.
That's cool. And then I wanted to switch to the business side of it a little bit. I'm sure post-COVID, these numbers are significantly different, but you're also an inventor and have another business as well. So what would in a typical year, most of your revenue come from performing, from other products and sponsorships or other things, or the invention? Where does that normally shake out for you?
It basically is, the majority is my performing. That is the bulk of my income. The remote business has grown quite a bit, and maybe the scales will eventually tip, and that might be my exit strategy, as I get older and don't want to travel as much. And I am being more and more selective with the gigs. Well, I used to be until COVID, but it's becoming more and more selective with the gigs that I took. And even now I am. I will say that, because sometimes people are like, oh, we got this gig. I'm like, no. And I'll even know somebody who needs the money and needs the work more, and I'll just say, he's a better fit for this,
Yeah, that's great.
But so, yeah, I think what will happen, and hopefully, was basically those scales will tip, and maybe I will make more passively than I will just with my own bare hands. Unfortunately, I'm not scalable. There's only one of me, so I'm trying to do things that are a bit more scalable and give me some room to have an exit strategy.
Good news is you have scarcity on your side, though, so you can charge a premium.
So true
for that. So that's good.
That's one thing.
Tell me
that's
about
one thing with
Audio Ape
juggling.
Remotes. Yeah. Tell me about Audio Ape Remotes. How did that come to be, and how much work was that to get launched once you had the idea?
This is a really good lesson, I think, it was for me, that I'd always been interested in show automation and controls. There was a system out there, and I was actually friends with the developer before he sold it. A few years had passed, and everybody was kind of itching for a good replacement for what left the market and got bought out. And I just kept telling the people who developed some of the software for the shows, like, oh, you got to do this, and you got to get an RF one, and just prototype it with a Raspberry Pi, and then do this. And then I had a couple of people being like, well, why aren't you doing this? You know so much about this stuff. I had to learn a lot about electronics from building things for my show. And I also had a hobby of collecting and repairing pinball machines. That's another side passion of mine, another
That's
area
great.
of play. So people were telling me that, and it really took a while for it to register in my brain that, we have this lizard resistance brain, that we don't go outside of a place where we could fail. And so I had to really sit down, and I had a couple of people that were my mentors, and they said, there's no reason this couldn't be you, the next person who makes this. And so I was like, okay. And I had a couple people that I'd worked on with projects that were beyond my scope for electronics and things like that. So I tapped into them, and we did a preliminary, and they said, yeah, we think we can do something, that could be good. And then once it started going, I was just OCD about it, and I just wanted to make it the best thing it could possibly be. I think one of those things is how you do anything is how you do everything. So basically, I wanted to build the best thing you could, and it ended up taking off way more than I thought it would. It was rough in the beginning. There's a lot of mistakes made, and I had to pay for those. I would not pass those mistakes on to the customer. So we had to do a couple of recalls, and to fix things. So there were a lot of pain points in starting, but anything worthwhile usually is. If it's an easy point of entry, somebody's already gotten in. So I built it the right way with a lot of stress and sweat equity and risk. And so now it's been great. And we actually have a total new iteration coming out. And so COVID was a time for me to kind of reflect and work on a new remote system and start investing time and money. And I didn't know when performing was going to turn on. It definitely took a lot longer than I thought, but the timing is pretty good. We just launched the new website and open pre-sales today after a year. It's so funny. We were doing this podcast right out about 2 hours after the launch happened. So it's been great, and I'm really excited to see the next iteration take off. And the nice thing is it is capable for virtual shows too, so people can control their cameras and their mics and who's on and all these fun things like that. You can definitely do that with a remote, and you can control your live shows when that turns back on. But as you know, I think virtual shows are now on the menu
Right,
no matter what
forever.
happens.
Yeah.
Because of restrictions of like, well, we don't want to pay for everybody to fly here, or just there's going to be corner cases where a virtual show makes more sense, and there'll be entertainers that are tooled up for it and ready to deliver for them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess the people that aren't familiar with it, we probably have performers listening to this show, but also a lot of trainers and public speakers and stuff. When you say show automation, it's basically a remote control that can fit in your pocket that would allow you to control lights, sound, video, whatever you need to run your show.
So we have a standalone music player built in, so you don't need anything technically. But if you want to do more than just play your music back and fade out and wait and move around in tracks seamlessly without the audience knowing it and without rehearsals, then you can use an iPad, and there's a lot of applications out there for music playback and things like that. Or you can use a laptop for PowerPoint and Keynote and QLab and all these amazing show automation products that are out there that can do everything, lighting and live cameras and video feeds and turning on and off mics and changing levels. All that can be done. What you do is basically set all those commands and then use the remote to go through those commands and tell them when to go. And there's a lot more to it, but that's the basic thing. And you got Tim Cook, when he does his keynote, he's got that thing in his hand, and Elon Musk has one too. And that's a company that has been longstanding as the best remote, but our new one is like 5 times more powerful and has all this new technology in it. So we actually have a possibility to unseat them. So my remote could end up in Tim Cook's or Elon Musk's hand. There's no reason it can't, because it is more powerful than what they're using right now with this iteration.
Wow, that's amazing. So you can check that out at audioaperemotes.com. Again, the new website, new product. Oh, audioaperemote.com. Yes, thank you for that. And charlespeachock.com for the entertainment and juggling. If you need an entertainer for virtual events, I know Charles has been working on his virtual show and can certainly hook you up there as well. And then hopefully, like you said, yes, we'll get to do some live events and performances again here soon.
Absolutely.
But I really appreciate you being here. I wonder for you, you've mentioned a lot of cool stuff. The pinball, the drums, obviously juggling is a passion and hobby for you. What else? Is there anything on your fun bucket list that you've always wanted to do, or something still that you'd love to pick up sometime?
That is a good question. I guess it's like I've always had a free spirit, so anything that I like, I usually will pick it up and and go at it. Singing, I'm not really good at, so I wouldn't mind getting better at that. But other than that, no. Some things that I'm not good at that I really admire, like art and drawing and things like that, I wouldn't mind doing. But you get that point of like when you're trying to learn it and it's annoying. Right. And until you get past that position, it starts to become pleasurable. And I have all these other things that are pleasurable and that I'm doing currently. So I guess starting over from scratch isn't as appealing to me. I like to stay in my sandboxes where I'm playing and I know what I'm doing and I enjoy that.
Well, that's interesting because you mentioned, I mean, the stuff that you do, I think juggling in particular is one where you have to practice until you get past the hump. Nobody is a good juggler on day one. It's definitely a learned skill. So do you have any advice for people, or how how maybe some people get past that and other people just give up and they go, I can't do it after 4 tries?
It's so funny because people will say, "Oh, you're just so naturally talented," and I kind of almost take that as an insult. It's
I
like
do
the
too. Yeah.
dismissive that the only reason I can do this is because I'm preordained, and I have this lucky thing, and they discount the 20, 30,000 hours I put into this. Um, so that can be a little irritating, but I think that's their own insecurity saying that. And I'll echo that again when you want to start to learn to juggle. You say, well, I just can't do that. No, somebody else can do that. Not me. I'm not that type of person. I'm not built for that. And once again, it's almost like the lizard brain, like, who am I to make a remote? You have to kind of work outside of that. And anybody can learn to juggle. One of my mentors taught a blind person how to juggle. Okay, it took substantially a lot longer, but it's there. Everybody has the motor skills. Now, I will say that people who are more in tune with their body, dancers, athletes, people that have used their body and their mind are interconnected. They're a lot quicker to learn to juggle. But anybody can learn, and it's not without. It's within the reach of everybody. And there's so many great YouTube videos on it. I think one of my buddies, Niels Dunker, has probably one of the best ones on there about how to practice 3 and how to get into it. And it's just muscle memory is all it is. It's like learning a basketball shot or a golf swing. And you got to ingrain it, and you got to carve those neural pathways over and over and over again until your brain realizes that's what this feels like, and this is what this is supposed to do, and this is how I react. And that's all it is. It's just the time. And some people absorb it quicker, like I said, and it's usually only due to either the amount of focus they have or in determination, or how they're not telling themselves no. There's so many people that never learn because the whole time they're just like, oh, I messed up. Oh, this is bad. You have to kind of cut that loose and just go with it and just be excited about it and count the victories when you get them. And that's the best way to learn, I think.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's not that long. I think, if I remember right, when I started, like 3 and maybe in like a week of practicing a few hours a day, that's not a long time when you think of the span of your life. And then you have a skill you can do to entertain people for the rest of your life. It's a good.
It's so funny too. You do have the timeline right. An average person that's thrown an object and caught an object and has played something in sports usually can do it in about a week or 2 weeks or something like that. It's funny though, because adding one more, it grows exponentially. So if it took you 7 days to learn 3, it'll take you 7 times 7 to learn 4, and 49 days. And then if you want to learn 5, it's 49 times 49. Like they go up by powers, unfortunately.
Well, that's good. I mean, as it should. Now, one of my favorite authors, Seth Godin, loves to teach people how to juggle. So I'm wondering if you agree with his juggling philosophy, which is all about the throwing and letting the catching take care of itself. That it's more important to be able to do a good toss than to worry about catching.
And one of my coaches definitely says, throw it where you, no, how does it go? Oh my gosh. Oh man, I forget this little gem that he used to say, throw it where you want it. Yeah, there are jugglers that are throwers, and there's ones that are catchers. Like they're savers, and there are ones that put it where you want it. So yeah, but basically way more important to make a good throw than a good catch. Because if you make a good throw, you don't have to make a good catch. That's right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what's your favorite pinball machine?
Oh, I got a couple. Monster Bash is one of my favorites. Medieval Madness, Mars Attacks, Whitewater, I used to own that one. And Dracula is one of the more underrated ones, the Bram Stoker's one.
What makes a good machine for you? Like awesome graphics and animation and stuff, or is it more about the play?
It's a lot of things. There's mostly, I think, the gadgets on board. So like some of them have some really cool stuff. Like Dracula has one where it levitates the ball across the field and uses a magnet underneath that you can't see. There's another one where it shoots the ball like across the playing field to capture into like this cage. You know, I've always been Rube Goldberg like fascinated. Like I used Mousetrap was like my favorite game, and I used to build all these things, like intricate things like that. So I think that's the first thing that attracts me to them. And then there's a lot of comedy in them too. There's funny shout outs and call outs, the lighting, the way the rules are set up, where it can kind of build up and get a huge payoff, and there's some games that are just built to just for people to come out and quickly play them, and they don't have a deep rule set. So I'd say the gadgets, and then the look and the feel of the game, and the comedy, and then the rule set and the way it's all laid out. Those are the most important things to me.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really interesting. And you do have a very, sounds like, analytical mind, that you take a very focused and controlled approach to most of the things that you're doing is on the technical side, even though they happen to be really fun. You can be fun and a puzzle solver at the same time. So
I think so. I definitely think that.
Well, are you ready to play a game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to spin our wheel of games here. We have 10 games on the wheel. We'll see which one it lands on. You got 2 truths and a lie. 2 truths and a lie. This is pretty easy. I'll go first. Basically, I'm going to say 2 things that are true, 1 thing that's a lie, and you're going to guess which one's the lie. So okay. I wore a bolo tie in my high school senior photo.
That's good.
Half my face was paralyzed for my first professional performance on stage. Or I love sushi. I love sushi.
Sushi. Oh, sushi. Okay.
Sushi. Yeah.
Sushi I'm not familiar with. But let's see. I'd say you're very cosmopolitan. I'd say you like sushi. So that's got to be a truth. The bolo tie, man, that's really pushing it for the age. Where did you grow up in?
Kansas City.
Oh, there you go. So that's the truth too. So the lie would be half your face got paralyzed.
It was actually the sushi. So
what?
I got Bell's palsy the week before I went on stage as a karaoke host at a casino. And it was right when Adam Sandler's movie Little Nicky came out, where he talks out of the side of his mouth the whole time. And everybody thought I was doing a bit. But it worked out, but that was a true story. All right, your turn. I'm going to grab my ball too.
Okay. I was thinking of one while you were doing that. My brother taught me how to juggle. I almost got signed with my first band, and where I was a drummer, and my parents owned a record store. That's how I grew up.
Oh, interesting. All right. You're so into play. I'm going to say the record store is true. It would be great if you showed up your older brother as a juggler, but I think that one's false, because I think a lot of people in bands would have made it too. I think you were good enough at that. So I'm going to say the brother's the lie.
Well, I appreciate that, but you were incorrect. My brother did teach me how to juggle.
All right, which one was the lie?
Then it would be almost getting signed as a drummer.
All right, that's awesome. So that one's still on the fun bucket list. You can pull off that one someday. Yeah, there you go. All right, awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. Anything else we can do to help you and what you have going on?
No. This is great. I just like being part of positive people and like-minded people, part of my tribe.
You got it. That is awesome. Find him at charlespeachock.com. You can also look him up on YouTube, audioaperemotes.com for the audio ape. And here we go, Playful Humans, playfulhumans.com. And there's a playfulness quiz. You can find out what type of playful personality you have at playfulhumans.com/quiz, and join the community of Playful Humans, where you can encourage other people to play more. I appreciate it. Until next time, if you can't be good at it. That's what my saying is. There we go. Go play. Wait for tomorrow.